Most people think that the hard part of print on demand is marketing, whether you are using social media to find customers through posting content, or even if you're using paid ads and looking for keywords to target people in your niche, or maybe if you're using a print on demand platform and you're focused on SEO and using the right product tags and titles to actually get discovered. But what if I told you that from my perspective, the hard part of print on demand is not marketing? The hard part is creating a design that people will actually pay for. That's really what we are selling as print-on-demand sellers. People are paying for our design. And in today's video, I'm going to present to you some of the things that I wish I knew before I actually began creating my own designs in 2016 when I started my first print-on-demand store. We're going to start with some design mistakes to avoid, then I'm going to give some tips, and if you stay to the end, I will show you some of my favorite design resources that I am using in my print-on-demand business. And the first mistake I see people making with their print-on-demand designs has to do with AI. If you don't know, AI has really come a long way. There are lots of YouTube videos here on YouTube about using AI to make print-on-demand designs, and a lot of them make it sound like AI is just going to make your entire design for you and it's going to become a bestseller. Now, I'm not doubting the potential of AI, I just don't really try to use AI to make the entire design. This is my store right here, and I used AI to help me with this design. That's the key there. AI is used to help. I used AI to generate the different vectors of the horse and the barn inside of this design because ultimately I can't make my own horse or my own barn, and AI was able to do it for me. Another way I've used AI is to do stuff like this, to get design ideas. This here is an AI generated image. I basically asked this software here, which is called Ideogram, to make me a metal sign. I described how I was wanting it to look. I basically wanted to create a metal sign that looked like a ship's wheel, and it had a name on it and a location as well. And then through working with a designer, I was able to bring something like this to life. Basically what I'm saying is instead of using AI to make my entire designs for me, I'm using them to make vectors and also get ideas and concepts so that way I can build upon them. I do have some more tips about AI. I do plan to make an entire video on them. If you want to see that, comment below with the AI software that you're currently trying to use. And if we get a lot of interest in a video like that, I will release a full video on AI designs here very soon. And also, just a quick side note before I give you some more tips, if you need help like hiring a graphic designer, I have a free print-on-demand course. It's called POD for Dummies. Inside, there's over 30 videos showing you how to build your store on Shopify and get started with social media marketing, and also some videos about how to actually go about hiring a designer. The course is called POD for Dummies. Like I said, it is completely free, and there is a link down in the description. Now, another major issue with print-on-demand designs is the actual text being used in them. Take a look at two of these designs here. The one on the left uses a very, very basic font. It also has basically no style to it at all. Inside of my print-on-demand trainings, I describe this as a Microsoft Word look, almost as if you typed it inside of a Microsoft Word document. The one on the right has a little bit of style. It matches the niche. It has some dynamic text elements in it. Basically what I'm saying is when it comes to creating text, you do not want it to look like it was created inside of Microsoft Word. Here's two more examples. You can see again, the one on the left has this Microsoft Word look to it, and the one on the right is ultimately much better because there is some style, there's a better font chosen, and ultimately the colors make it stand out. Many people who lack graphic design skill end up creating things that have this Microsoft Word look. Something like this is also a design mistake. I call this a stacked quote design. It's basically several different fonts kind of stacked from top to bottom with a few different colors. This sort of t-shirt design is also very, very common. Even if you're creating other products than just t-shirts, something like this leads to failure in a lot of my experiences. At this point, like I said, I've been running print-on-demand stores since 2016. I've also worked with a lot of other people as well, so a lot of the things that I share is not only based on my own experiences, but experiences of other people that I have worked with. And sometimes people create things like this as well, where it's basically just some really plain text with a clip art icon on the shirt. Ultimately, when you do stuff like this, it kind of makes the shirt feel quite cheap. It kind of honestly resembles one of those free shirts you would get if you attended some sort of a charity event. If you are creating t-shirt designs or even designs for other more high profit products that I normally talk about here on my channel, you're going to want to try to do stuff like this here, here, where there is really great text, there's really great artwork as well. Ultimately, there are no clip art icons on any of these designs. This will help you ultimately to get people to buy your stuff, because again, if you're creating designs that look cheap or look like some of those free shirts that you might get at a charity event, you might not actually get people interested enough to purchase it. Another major issue that I see is stuff like this here, where it's basically just this square image that's been placed on the product. Again, whether you're selling a shirt, some sort of drinkware, a poster, a blanket, you never want to do this. You want to make sure that your design is made for the product it's being sold on. And if you're using an image that has like those really sharp edges on it, it kind of just looks like random on the product that it's put on. I don't know if it's just me. Let me know down in the comments if you think something like that doesn't look that great. Right here is another design that I found. It's basically, again, just some very simple text with some clip art icons on it. Basically what I'm saying with your designs is you want to put a heavy emphasis on the different graphics. This one here has some really nice flowers and a fox and a mushroom, also some great text effects with it as well. This design here is incredibly simple, but the colors and the text definitely makes it stand out. And ultimately, again, this store here has done a great job at using different vectors, different banner elements as well, and then all of the text has a nice effect on it. It basically all has like a grunge effect to match the niche. I'm not saying you need to do a grunge effect, but you should ultimately have some sort of effect on your text that makes it stand out and match the niche. Another issue I see is people doing stuff like this here, where there is no text at all. I'm not saying that every single design needs to have text, but what I am saying is when you do only graphics, like a few of these examples here, you end up getting a design that is kind of lackluster. This sort of a design style is very common with beginners because ultimately they are not graphic designers themselves, so they go out and find different graphics that they can use on their print-on-demand products, sort of like this here, and then they sort of mass produce things like this. And again, what you end up with is a design that is lackluster that people will likely not pay for. In a moment, I will show you some examples of designs that are just graphics without text that I think came out quite nice. Another issue is when sometimes people create designs like this that basically just have a photograph on the product. This is basically being put on lots of different posters or canvases. If you were going to do something like that, I would basically recommend you to try to bring some text elements into it, like these examples here, so that way you can ultimately create something, again, that people will pay for. Another mistake I see people make is when they start branching out from t-shirts and mugs and begin creating designs on much cooler products. This is something I've talked about a lot here on my channel. I've done numerous different product reviews and shown you different samples of some products that make you some really good profit margin. That has led to a lot of people who don't have a lot of graphic design experience creating designs that are somewhat subpar. Here's an example of what I mean. This is a hooded blanket here that basically just has a t-shirt design on it. Sometimes when people begin to branch out to other things, they take all of their t-shirt designs and just throw them on blankets like this. I have seen this done with lots of other types of blankets and print-on-demand doormats and canvases and posters, and ultimately you want to make sure you are utilizing all of your space on your product to create something that is actually cool. What I mean by that is something like this here. You can see that this design on the hooded blanket covers everything. There is a camo background. There is a heart with the USA flag in the foreground. I'm not saying this blanket is a perfect design, but what I am saying is that they have used their space effectively. Same thing with some of the blankets here on this store. While they are the same products that we've been looking at, they have done basically everything I've talked about so far. They've used really great text. They have a lot of great vectors and different icons on the products, and they've created blankets that are not just plain solid color with a t-shirt design thrown on them. Right here is another example of what I'm talking about. It's just a black blanket, and then there's white text that says baseball mom on it. Something like this, they have utilized their space in a much better way. You can see that there's a lot of dynamic stuff on here. It's a relatively simple design in the sense where there's a couple of like t-shirt designs in the corners. There's a focal point text, and then the background has a lot of patterns in it. This was a pair of nurse shoes that I found on Etsy, where again, they've basically just taken a t-shirt design of a stethoscope and thrown it on the back of the shoe. Overall, it's just a black pair of shoes that says nurse. When you compare it to something like this here, you can see a clear difference between the two. This store here sells a lot of different shoes for lots of different niches, everything from chickens and teachers and nurses as well, and you can see that each design is actually made for a pair of shoes. There are design elements that are used in a consistent way across the product, and ultimately something like this comes out a lot better than something like this here. Basically what I'm saying is if you are branching out from t-shirts, you should not just be taking t-shirt PNG files and placing them on blank products. You should be creating something that has a lot of stuff on it. I'm not saying it needs to be busy like this. It just needs to have more than something like this here. Here is one last example of what I mean. This is a poster for the gardening niche. There's basically no text effects on the font being used, and it's also just a black poster with the t-shirt type PNG file sort of just thrown right on it. You can see that something like this here has a lot more to it. There's basically a background, there's also a border behind the text, and then they have their t-shirt style design where it says, in a world where you can be anything, be kind. There's some vectors down below of some gardening tools, and then across the bottom there's even more text. Basically what I'm saying is this here stands out a lot more and ultimately is a much cooler piece than just a black poster with a t-shirt style PNG on top of it. And so basically what I've tried to do in this video today is show you that if you're creating things like this here, or stuff like this here, or stuff like this here, that you should try to get a little bit more detailed with how you are presenting it. Designs like this here, all of the designs here on this store are quite nice. There's a lot of elements placed inside of them. The text has a great font as well as good colors and good textures on the actual designs. Stuff like this is again just a t-shirt design thrown on lots of random products. If you're creating other products besides t-shirts, you should be focused on using all of your design space. Like I said in the beginning, I do have a free course. It's called POD for Dummies. In there, I show you how to go get all of the design templates from your print-on-demand supplier to make sure that you can create something that actually fills the space and looks nice. There's also some videos that show you how to work with a designer if you wanted to ultimately be able to create something like this that you may not have the ability to do yourself. And hopefully everything I've gone through today has been helpful if you are just getting started with your own print-on-demand designs. As promised, I wanted to show you some design resources. This is a website here called dafont.com. They have a whole bunch of different fonts. Just make sure to check the licenses on each one that you're looking at. Creative Fabrica is also a great option for you as well. I will put a link in the pinned comment of this video to a pretty cool deal if you wanted to be able to get a Creative Fabrica account for a discount. This website, like I said, has a whole bunch of stuff including fonts and vectors and lots of other things that you can actually use in a print-on-demand design. Hopefully all this has been helpful today. Like I said, thank you for watching and I will see you in the next video.